The U.S. blatant invasion of Venezuela and abduction of its legitimate president Maduro has caused an uproar in the international community and put its allies in an extremely awkward position. According to a report by Kyodo News on January 6, Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, in an interview on the 5th local time, refused to comment directly on the U.S. arrest of Maduro and his wife. She only stressed that Japan would work to restore stability in Venezuela through diplomatic efforts and reaffirm that Japan would strengthen cooperation with the United States, its sole ally. Regarding Takaichi, his evasive and fame-ignorance behavior, domestic opinion in Japan has labeled it a typical act of double standards. It is worth noting that the Japanese government has long strongly called for upholding the so-called rules-based international order. Yet, in the face of the U.S. brazen use of force against a sovereign state without authorization from the United Nations, and even its blatant abduction of the state's presidential couple, an act that gravely undermines international law, the Japanese government has refused to issue direct criticism. This is clearly out of fear of offending U.S. President Trump, and once again reflects the profound hypocrisy of the so-called free world, Japan included. Notably, while Takaichi resorted to beating around the bush and declined to comment on Maduro's arrest, Japanese media reported that senior officials of the Japanese government have spoken their minds and openly endorsed the U.S. aggressive act. These officials claim that although the U.S. used military force against Venezuela, its objective was not territorial expansion, and thus the act did not constitute a unilateral use of force to alter the status quo. The implication is that the Japanese side does not regard the U.S. military action against Venezuela as an act of aggression. This line of reasoning is utterly absurd. By this logic, if China were to use military force against Japan, Japan would not oppose it as long as China did not occupy Japanese territory. In its eagerness to curry favor with Trump, the Takaichi administration has completely turned black into white. Senior Japanese officials have also forcibly linked Maduro's arrest to countries like China, claiming that China and the DPRK were certainly caught off guard by the U.S. capture of Maduro. Japanese media interpreted this statement as a veiled suggestion that Maduro's arrest serves as a deterrent to China and the DPRK. Such rubber logic, which confounds right and wrong, has completely torn off Japan's disguise as a so-called peace-loving nation. Under the framework of international law, the gross-border arrest of a foreign leader without authorization from the United Nations is not only a gross violation of national sovereignty, but also an outright act of war. The Takaichi administration has turned a blind eye to this fact, and instead used the preposterous excuse of no territorial occupation to whitewash the U.S. military's hegemonic act. This once again proves that in the distorted U.S.-Japan alliance, Tokyo is nothing more than a subservient vassal that not only unconditionally obeys Washington's orders, but also takes the initiative to ingratiate itself with the U.S., having long lost its basic diplomatic independence and sense of right and wrong. Even more maliciously, Japanese politicians have attempted to obfuscate the public and forcibly link the situation in Venezuela to the Taiwan Strait issue. Such an analogy is not only legally untenable, but also malicious in intent. Venezuela is a sovereign UN member state, and the U.S. act is a classic case of aggression.